Welcome back to Light Talk, where everyday people can share their spiritual journey stories with a safe and supportive community. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, email lighttalk423@gmail.com. And while you're at it, click on the like, share, and subscribe button as my throat goes all funky. Uh, well, today we're going to go ahead and get started. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and start in with your stories?
Hi. So yeah, my name is Dominique. Thank you so much for having me on. It's so cool. I'm
Oh,
excited to chat with you for a little bit.
it's my
Uh,
pleasure. Thank you for being here.
I'm so excited. So I work as a medium and psychic and a death doula, and we've kind of done it my whole life. So yeah, we have lots of crazy stories. We have good stories. It's really, I'm pretty much an open book for anything at all. I'm excited.
That is awesome. I have quite a few stories myself, but they're kind of short stories. But
Mhm.
but it's all good. Any story is an awesome story, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's part of our human experience that makes up our life in this time around. So it's a good thing.
It is. It is. You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah. So, well, we have a story of it's about with your mom encouraging you
Oh
in
yeah.
doing all of this. So, can you tell us some about that?
Yeah, so I was born being able to connect to the other side. And unlike a lot of people, I didn't have a very like I had a very supportive family. A lot of people don't that are like me. Um, and since I was born to be able to do this, it wasn't something that started later in life. My mom realized I was a little different very, very early, and she just kind of ran with it. She would take me to meet other people in this field. We've met people like Sylvia Brown and John Edwards, and she would send me to seminars, and anything that she could get, she supported me to help me grow in it, which is really, really incredible. It's really rare too, but it was really, really incredible experience with her.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
always has been supportive.
Yeah, that's not too likely you would have somebody to support you in that way and so young.
Right, absolutely. My immediate family was my mother and my adoptive dad and my grandfather, but everybody outside of that very close circle kind of stayed out of it. But yeah, I was very lucky to be raised by a very unconventional kind of family, so I got really cool perspectives and support from those three growing up. And as I became an adult, I married an incredible partner that absolutely supports this 1,000%. He does not understand any of it. He's very logical, but he's like, I
Mine
don't get
too.
it, but I'm glad you do, and I got you. Let's go do all the things. And so I'm very lucky. I have a cool circle. I have a very cool circle.
That is awesome. My husband's still trying to figure out what's going on here, but he's just like, okay, Dana, whatever you gotta do,
You do what you
you
gotta
just
do.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, we got
yeah.
invited to a huge, like the biggest paranormal expo in the country last year, and we got an invite, and they're like, "Will you please come do readings?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess so." But then I started thinking it's a 10-hour drive, and so my husband's like, "Oh, you're going. Like this is happening." And he jumped right in and made like he pushes me when I am petrified, he will push me. So I'm very lucky to have that support, and my kids are super supportive, so it's good. It's really good.
That's awesome. Do your kids have any skills?
My daughter, I mean, she has a pretty good intuition, but she doesn't do this work. I think she could if she wanted to. She's in her early 20s and in the military, off doing her worldly stuff. I have a son that has special needs that I'm convinced has psychic abilities. I'm pretty sure he does, but with his comprehension and understanding of things, I think it's just kind of fitting. But he doesn't communicate like I do with individuals.
Yeah.
But you can tell he knows something's up. You can definitely tell he knows something's going on all the time, and I get the looks, and he'll make little comments, and I'm like, "Yeah, he's got it." He
Yeah,
definitely does.
yay!
He definitely does. It's very cool.
That is so awesome. That is awesome. I'm so happy that you have that support system. And that's why I'm doing this show is so we have a support system so people can talk about it and feel
Right.
good about it. And
Right, there's definitely been a change, and I say the last 5 or 10 years, you can see a wave that started a while ago. And because, I mean, in the '80s, '90s, like, that was not a thing. We don't talk about those things. We kept quiet about it, and we live in the South, and that's a big no-no on top of it. So, I'm very, very, very blessed. Very, very lucky. I really am.
yeah, you should be.
I love them all. Don't know what I'd do without them all.
and you have worked in the law enforcement?
I have not worked in law
Okay,
enforcement, but I have worked with law enforcement.
with
Yes,
them.
we have had
Okay.
people ask us and get our perspective because a lot of it's not really, you know, seen quite comfortably in a lot of different court of laws just yet. But we have had law enforcement contact us about missing people and unsolved cases, and we've gotten some incredible experiences out of it, and we've helped some people along the way, which is my only goal. Like that's my number one goal, is to help and be of service in any way, shape, or form I can. So we've been very lucky. I think it's very cool that there are people who are opening up their minds to just consider it. We have some
Right.
incredible practitioners in the world that don't get the what's the word I'm looking for, they don't get the respect they deserve in that field. But we have a few that are really great. We have a few that are very open to it. Even if they don't understand it, they'll at least get our point of view and then like take what we get and then they'll run with it, which is really neat.
Yeah, and that's awesome. You have the partnership like that.
Right, right. We
Yeah.
have there's a practitioner that lives up in the DC area that offers remote viewing, and he's actually worked with the FBI for years, and it's one of the few people who have a job in the government that do this, and it's very cool. It's very cool.
Yeah, yeah, that is really cool. Maybe I'll have to get connected with him.
Yeah, he's a tough one to get with. He has classes that he offers and he has great books. I will definitely send you his information. He's really
Oh,
great.
awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
absolutely.
So what kind of experiences have you had when you're looking for missing people? I mean, what are the um, different places you've been to have to find, or yeah, just kind of tell me
So
something
I don't have to
more
go
about
in
it.
like the field to do it. I see
Right.
everything like here. This is where I work from. This is just how it goes for me. But we've seen people who have come back from the other side that have crossed over and redirected us to the person that actually murdered them, which was really interesting. We've had people who have not been found, their bodies haven't been found, and they've given me enough information of what the vehicle looks like and the people that were with them that later on were absolutely arrested and after they knew where to find the evidence at, which was really, to me, it's very humbling. So it just shows to prove like I am not responsible for it. It all comes from like the source, like the universe, God, whatever you want to call it. But it's such a wild thing to have it happen. We had a young woman who was in her early 20s who was in a very abusive relationship, and she was beaten to death and left in a car and set on fire. And that's how nobody found her. Nobody could find her anywhere, and a good friend of hers contacted me with her mother, and we sat down and I showed them the road. They went down, well, the road she was showing me, she went down a
Right.
specific tree and they went there, and that's where the car, what was left of the car, and the remains were inside of it, which are heartbreaking, but I'm glad that she has closure. We don't get that a lot, and that can help the family just as much as it can the soul that is transitioned over. It
Right.
can help them find peace and comfort. I think the one that everybody is most intrigued with is an individual. And again, I don't share these stories without permission. So I promise if we have a session, I won't share your story unless you have given me written permission. But there was a gentleman that was killed in the 80s by a very notorious serial killer, so they thought. And I had a session with his daughter and then later on his wife. And I kept showing him everything about his death and where the car was and what had happened to him. And one thing he kept showing me was a toolbox on the back of the car, and they were like, "That does not make sense. There was no toolbox. I don't know what you're talking about." And after a few more sessions, and the toolbox stayed. It just was flashing in my head. He wouldn't let go of the toolbox. I ended up becoming pretty good friends with them, and then out of the clear blue sky, I got a phone call, and she was like, "You need to sit down." She's like, "You're not going to believe what just happened." And just as a note, I don't believe in accidents. Everything happens for a reason.
Of
But
course.
her daughter was listening to a podcast about true crime, and they were discussing this one predominant serial killer that they all thought murdered her father. And come to find out, there was a 2-year window where he had an accomplice that rode with him for 2 years in this part of the country, and his last name happened to be Tool, and he happened to murder people by using a hammer to kill them. So as soon as it happened, this man came, like he showed up in my mind so clear, and the toolbox, he showed me the toolbox just vanishing, and I've had many sessions with them since then, and he has not shown back up. And I was like, oh, thank you for clearing that up. sir. So it's very
Wow.
interesting, very very interesting. That's the one that everybody seems to, holy cow, that happened. But it was very cool because at that point his wife had been sitting on this for 30 plus years and we just didn't know, and it was very cool to have that closure. And
Oh yeah.
again, with the serendipitous thing with another podcast and just happened to be hearing it, and it was great. It was very cool.
That is awesome that that works out, and we know it works out. It's for a reason.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
everything happens for a reason. Our job is to
exactly.
find it. Very cool. When she called and told me that, I was like, "Shut up, no." It was crazy. I freaked out. Very wild experience.
Yeah,
You just
and that's so cool that you're able to find that information. My husband is really into like airplanes. He loves airplanes. So he kind of watches like some of these, I forget the name of it and all, but there's an aircraft that has just disappeared.
yes.
And he's like, we're worried about, those
They
family members and everything.
those things don't just disappear. Like
They
they
don't
don't
just,
just disappear.
yeah. So here I'm thinking, okay, did it, it's not in the ocean. They've looked in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
They've looked all over like that. I'm starting to wonder if just that piece broke off as they went through a portal or something. What
Right,
is your
right.
thought?
I definitely think that happens. There's a ship, and now I can't remember the name of it, where it disappeared years ago, like a few decades ago. And there's a documentary on Netflix about it, where the ship disappeared, and then it suddenly showed back up years later with the same people on it that had not aged at all. They looked exactly the same, and it's on Netflix. I will have to find the name of it, but I'm fascinated by that. But reality
Yeah,
is not what humans think it is. Time and reality are not real. It's what we have created to think we have control over what's happening and understanding. Um, so I am all about time warps and wormholes and different dimensions. I am 1,000%. I know it's real. I know it's real. There's no way it's not. I've seen
yeah,
too many layers of the spiritual side to not believe anything different.
yeah, and that's where I'm thinking. It's like with all of those triangles, Bermuda Triangle and all,
Yeah.
the Michigan Triangle, all of those. I, it's the same thing, isn't it? It's kind of like like you're saying, a
Right.
time warp thing going on there, or is it just a
Yeah,
portal?
absolutely. I
What?
definitely think there's layers of reality, and what reality are we in that moment, and our decisions and what we do will change that path on that reality. I think it happens all the time. It really is wild to me to just try to sit and think about it. But as humans, we're
Yeah.
not supposed to understand it. And we try so hard and we get so caught up in trying to understand, and we're like, no, we need to be present in the human
Right.
experience, and it's hard. But I'm always fascinated by it. I'm always fascinated by it. I
Yeah.
think it was Stephen Hawking that said that his opinion or his theory was that in 2012, when we were supposed to have like the world ending thing, if people are old enough to remember that. Um, but he said that he believes that we could have went through a wormhole, but we're not aware of it because we dipped right into it and have a different reality. And I think that's really cool. I think that's a really neat
Wow.
concept and theory. I'm fascinated.
Wow. I haven't heard of that one, but yeah, that's
You
quite the.
can. It's very cool. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been kind of getting into this time traveler stuff, time traveling. So,
Fascinating.
wow. So, anybody out there, if you're a time traveler, come talk to
I
me.
want to
Let's get
know.
you
I
on the
want to talk
show.
to you.
Yeah,
I just want to
let's
talk to you.
talk. Because I'm like, this is really fascinating. Because you see all these pictures, and there's people that have cell phones in the 20s, and
Yeah.
it's just
It's
been, it's just,
wild to me.
it is very wild.
Right. And there's one, I want to say it's on TikTok and Instagram right now, where this man is coming forward and like there is going to be a huge storm that's coming and these waters are going to reach in as far as Arizona. And I'm sitting here looking like, well, I'm watching the weather, so I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I don't know. Like I'm here for it, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm always intrigued. And then you start adding things like ley lines into it and the paranormal side of it, and it's wild. It's a wild little world that we are living in currently. I
you're
think it's
right.
very cool.
You're right. You're right. Yeah. So you did the investigations with New York, or You like the
Oh,
show of
I have
Paranormal
worked with a
Investigation?
lot of paranormal investigators. I think I was discussing with you my favorite, hands down, my favorite paranormal team in the whole world is New Jersey Paranormal. Everybody needs to follow them on the social media things. They do investigations live every week. So if you can't be there, you can watch on Facebook and Instagram and interact with it. It's really cool. They just, I think the event's already filled up, but with John Zaffis is bringing out stuff from his haunted museum for people to investigate. And if
Oh,
he trusts
really?
them, like everybody trusts them. They're incredible, incredible investigators. They're very ethical. But yeah, we've worked with a
Oh,
lot
wow.
of paranormal investigators over the years, but they're my favorite. They're absolutely my favorite.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll have to
for
check that out.
sure.
There's so much to
Yeah,
check out.
definitely.
There's so much. I've got
There
this
is.
list like so big to
Yes.
check out. So much.
Yep. And it is, the more you look into it, the bigger it grows and the more stuff you
Right.
want to see. It's so great. It's so great.
Right.
We did an investigation. I went up there. They did an investigation. New Jersey Paranormal did with Adam Berry. They do them all the time. Kalani, they've done one with like every ghost hunters, anybody, they have worked with them in the paranormal community. So
Wow.
absolutely can stand on their own 2 feet, and they're very humble people. They're very kind, but they're very ethical. They're very ethical and very thorough in what they do. And they have public investigations constantly, like constantly. And you can just grab a ticket and go. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. I highly suggest it.
Yeah. One of these days I'm going to go on a hunt.
Yeah, it'll
One
be
of
good.
these
I mean, we
days.
have some great investigators around the country. They're just my favorite. They're like a 10-hour drive for me, but it's worth it. Totally do it.
Yeah. It's just, yeah, I watch those all the time and all the ghost hunts and just
Yeah, they
everything. It's just such a web.
it is. It is such a web, and it's such a broad community because everybody has something they're drawn to, right?
Hmm.
And it's so cool when you can get the right people together. It's incredible. It really is incredible. They have Para Unity is in the first week in November every year, and they host it in New Jersey up in Woodbridge, and all the money to buy your it's like $25 to get in. And all the money goes to the community. The paranormal investigation team doesn't keep any of it. They donate it all to the community fund in the area. So you
That's
know they're not
awesome.
doing it for the money. But if people like Chip Coffey and John Zaffis and and Dustin Perry and the Ghost Adventures and all the like everybody in the paranormal community trusts them, should definitely go. It's really good. It's so much fun. So you can explore lots of different paths there. It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good good information. Good
Yeah, and I'm
information.
not part of their team. I just go because it's fun. We just enjoy it. I'm not part of them. I will hype them up because they're great. They're very cool.
So what kinds of things have you seen in those investigations?
Investigations. Oh, you see all kinds of things. Like we with different investigations over the years, we've been scratched, we've been pushed, we've been yelled at, we've been, that's all part of it. But normally it's not that dramatic. It's really not that dramatic. But it is very cool when I go in as a medium and I get to see people who are just there for the experience. And I have a little notepad that I carry with me. And I'm always like writing stuff down as I get it. And we will go through and later on throughout the night as words get spoken and things get moved and we get different EVPs and stuff. It's very cool to see them line up with what I've been writing out for hours going to these investigations. But it also depends on the people you're with. I've investigated the same place over a few hours with one group of people and then that group wraps up and another group comes in. It
Uh-huh.
depends the kind of people you are with, the energy they bring will definitely make what you get very different too, which is kind of cool.
Oh
Um
wow. Yeah. Well, it makes
some
sense.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We did Liberty Hall up in Union, New Jersey. It's Liberty Hall Museum. It's a very old home and all the properties there. And we went through with the first group and it was very calm and we would only get a few voices and a little girl kept following everybody from room to room and lights would go off. It was very cool. By the time the second group came in, it was very different. We seen chairs moving, we heard people screaming and yelling, we heard people yelling at us to get out of a room, we'd seen furniture move up and it was very cool. So it really depends the energy of the people that are with you as well. It'll amplify it or bring it down a little. It always depends. It's
So
always good.
when you're in a room and they're screaming at you to get out, how is your reaction to that? And how would what is the best way to react to that?
Spirits love to feed off of energy. If you get freaked out and you run and you get scared or you get angry, you just fed them. They're gonna get louder normally. They're gonna feed off of that and it's gonna make them feel bigger. Um, Normally. Sometimes they're done. They're over having you in that space. I've seen people react from one end of the spectrum to the other. I've seen some that'll sit there and hold their ground and get an attitude. And I'm like, don't poke. We don't need to be disrespectful. I think that's a big key in the paranormal community. If you're going to investigate a space, remember these were people too at one point in time. Don't treat them differently than you would anybody else. So as long as you're doing it in a respectful way and you're doing it in an ethical manner, you're going to be fine. You really are. I'm a big believer in trusting your instincts. I have been in a few places that have made my skin crawl, and I'm like, nope, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go. I don't like it. And if I don't like it, then that definitely means there's something there that you probably don't want to play around with because I'm okay with it. Like I don't mind the dark stuff, but you have to trust your instincts. But it all depends. You have to kind of go in and just be respectful, be kind. Remember, these were all people at one point in time and they don't deserve any kind of ill intent unless, if they give it to you first and then you just protect yourself. That's a huge key in investigating. Go in protected, know how to protect yourself, and make sure who you're going with is good too. You don't need somebody who's going in there to stir up stuff, and
Right.
that you don't want to bring that home with you. You really don't.
No, no. Yeah, yeah. Good point. Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
what I need to do. I have a friend that does a little bit of ghost hunting. He actually goes to homes and cleanse
yeah,
homes and stuff. And
yeah.
so I asked him one of these days I want to go
Check
with
it
him
out.
to just cleanse a house or something. Just little simple things at first to get myself into
Yeah,
it. So
I used to do that years ago. We offered it as a service, and I stepped back from that because you get in these weird situations. Which, if you start doing this, you'll start seeing the different types of people. Some that want something bad to be in their home, and so they like want it, and you're like, I can't help you because this is a human ego thing that they're trying to feed. Um, but my number one rule when it comes to making sure your home is safe is I can come in and do it. A priest can come in and do it. Another practitioner can, but it's going to work best if you do it yourself. That is your home. That is your space. So we started teaching people how to claim their space, is what we call it. And I can tell you how to do it, and I can do it, but it's going to mean a whole lot more coming from you. Your home, your space.
my
This is your home. This is your space. This is your home. This is your space. So we have to really help people understand that. And that's a big one. That's a real big one
yeah,
because we
and
can
that
do it,
makes
and it's
sense
all
too.
yeah, it's all
Yeah,
calm and quiet when we leave. We don't feel anything. And then 2 days later, they're talking about stuff flying off walls. And I'm like, you need to let them know they're not welcome. Because if I'm there, they're not going to show up. But when I
right.
leave, I can't do anything for you. You are still feeding it. So the process.
That's right. That's right. So, what other stories would you have to tell us? What kinds of
Yeah.
experiences?
We have some really, I'm telling you, every day is something new and exciting. And I always tell people I'm coming in every single day as a student with every single client I have. I think my favorite are skeptics. Skeptics are hands down my favorite because I'm a skeptic. I don't trust like 90% of the people in this line of work. So when I get a good, healthy skeptic as a client, I'm like, it's going to be a good day. We had one literally 2 days ago. We had a client come in and they were an older couple, which always amazes me because they're the ones who are brought up not to believe in this stuff.
Right.
And she was from a different culture, and I kept telling her, I was like, the universe on the other side, like language is kind of universal. We all,
Mhm.
when I get messages, I don't care where you're from, when you're from, I can understand what you're saying. But her mother was making a point to talk to me in a language I did not understand. And she was like, yeah, because she would not speak the English language in my home. She refused to learn the English language. She refused. And I'm like, yeah, that's tracking 1,000%. So it's little things like that that we have to learn how to interpret. We had my favorite skeptic, hands down. I think I've talked to you about her before. Was years and years ago, like a decade plus years ago, and I went to a gallery reading. There's like 50-ish people there, and she approached me when I first got there and she was like, listen, I don't believe this is aligned with God. I don't believe in it. I'm very religious, but my family and friends want you here so you can use my space. And I'm like, cool, absolutely respect that. Will not approach you. I will just do my work over here. And after a few hours of working with this very large group of people, I kept seeing this energy, this person run back and forth. And at an essence, we have like who we are. We can take on whatever shape, but at the core of it, we are who we are. And I kept seeing the same energy run back and forth behind her, but she would look different, like crazy colored hair, weird clothes, like absolutely outrageous outfits. And I was just totally distracted all day with her. And when I was leaving, I was like, I'm going to break my cardinal rule. I'm going to walk up to somebody that did not ask me to, and I'm going to talk to her about it. And I was like, I know, I'm sorry in advance, but this girl keeps running behind you, and she has like fishnets and neon green jacket and then a purple wig, and she's doing this, and it's just constant. And the woman just broke down sobbing and crying, and she's like, "That's my daughter." And I apologized for doing the one thing she asked me not to. And normally I
Right.
won't, but I had to. Her daughter was not going to leave me alone if I didn't. I could definitely tell she was going to be one to just follow me around until I did it. And her daughter was nonverbal in life. She was disabled and she was nonverbal, so she couldn't speak. So every day she would come out of her room in an absolutely outrageous outfit that mismatched and looked crazy and loud because that's how she wanted to go out. And she was like, there's no way that you would have known that at all. And to this day, she's one of my most faithful clients. She calls me every few months and then she's like, hey, I got some friends I want you to come do a reading for it. And it's amazing to me what the universe can do and
Right.
souls and true compassion can do. And it's very cool when you're doing it the right way. You're not doing it to make money or to be famous or
Right.
popular. We're doing it because the soul's purpose. It's very cool.
Yeah.
My gosh, we have so many. We have so many. I think another big one that's in our book that we have coming out is we had a mother that lost her son to an overdose, and her brother was with him, and he was a skeptic, and she was very much a big believer. She was all excited to have a conversation about her son. And after our during our 1 hour session that we had, the uncle was like, "Well, if this is really my nephew, then what color was his favorite card?" A note to people, they never show up in the way that you think they're going to. They're not going to show you the key word or like the code word you guys talked about. It's not going to happen. I was like, well, I don't know about what his favorite color car was, but he's showing me a little red ATV that flipped and rolled down a hill, and you watched his eyes get real big. And the son's mom sitting next to him, and she turns and she's like, what is she talking about? And he's like, well, what you didn't know, what we went and did when we were out here riding ATVs, is that he almost took his own life rolling down a hill when his ATV flipped, and mom got all mad and was yelling at him. And I was like, this is how they show up. It's not going to be the cool code word you guys discussed. It's going to be ways that nobody else knows. And the same young man came through later, and he was talking about his uncle, and his uncle's like, well, what's the last or what did he ask me to cook for him? His uncle was going to school, like culinary school. And I was like, I live by the beach, so we see trucks that sell like seafood all the time. And I
Right.
was like, there's this man holding this little black fuzzy thing. It looks like a sea urchin. And he's like, okay, I'm done with you. He was like, that's ridiculous. The last thing last thing my nephew asked me to cook was a sea urchin. No, and I didn't know how to do that. And he's like, and you just freaked me out. I need to leave. I can't do this. And it freaked him out. And now I have sessions with him every 6 months. He's like, I have a decision. I don't know what to do. What should I do? So I love how they show up in the craziest ways, but it's ways that I would have never guessed. And I literally like, oh my God, holy crap, at least once a session because freaks me out. It just freaks me out. But those are we have those every week. Every week we have something like that. And it's fun though. Like I would not trade this job for anything in the world. Like anything. It's so much fun.
Yeah,
So
that
much fun.
that sounds really awesome. That sounds so
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
I'm
they've
so
they've
excited.
posted about it. Yeah, they've posted about it on their social media and tagged us. And I have lots of clients that will make that will tell the stories of our sessions together, and it cracks me up to hear it from the other side. Like that was kind of weird, wasn't it? Yeah, that was
Yeah.
kind of odd. Like it's fun though. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I have one person that I spoke with, and they were talking about seeing her dad, and they her and her, I think it was a husband at that time, boyfriend husband, and they both turned to look out the window, and she didn't say anything more about it. But I got in my head, it's like I started seeing this person, so I started describing, and that kind of freaked her
Mhm.
out. So I'm
Yeah.
learning. I'm trying
Hey,
to say, okay, this is what I'm seeing. I'm trying to do better with that. But yeah, it just I
it's a
started
process.
describing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was really kind of cool. It's not scary. It's just kind of like,
It's
yeah,
not
I
scary.
it's like I'm seeing it through their eyes.
Yes.
It's really cool, and I can't wait to be
It,
able to
it,
do
it
it
is
all the
very
time.
interesting. And it doesn't matter. Like Chip Coffey didn't start doing readings until he was in his 40s. In my opinion, he's one of the greatest mediums we have right now. Normally people don't start young, except unless you're like Tyler Henry. He started really young. But most
Right.
people aren't until their adulthood and they're well into their adult lives that they realize, because they fling that door open and they're like, oh, okay. And that's when it normally happens. I mean, I was very blessed, like I said, to be able to have that support to let me explore it. A lot of people don't have that. So it
Yeah.
gets shut down until they're older, and then something will trigger it and something will happen. And the more you work with it, the more it grows.
Yeah. It's awesome. Well, I so appreciate your time with me today, and I had a
Yeah.
great time hearing your
Yeah, it was
stories and just
fun.
chatting and all. That's awesome. I had so much fun. So many questions, so many answers, so many stories.
Oh, we could do this all day. We've been doing
Yes,
this for 20 plus years. We could do this all day.
can.
Anytime.
I can. Anytime, anywhere, any place. And right here is a perfect place for you. So if you have any stories or know anybody that has any experiences with any of the supernaturals, paranormals, NDEs, or even time travel, come and join me.
Absolutely.
Get a hold of me at lighttalk423 at gmail.com. And while you're at it, click on that like, share, and subscribe button. And we will talk with you soon. Well, thanks again, and thanks for
Thank
being
you.
here. And I really had a great time.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love chatting with you. Anytime.
All right, I might take you up on that.
Go ahead. Anytime. I'm here for it.
All right. Well, we'll talk with you later. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thank
Bye.
you.